So we're just going to talk really quick, and I'd love that you all participate as well. So it says, are you vaccinated for the flu? Let me see if this will work. So what is epidemiology? Does anyone know what that word means by chance? Or a wild guess? Okay, so here's the definition. Devin, would you like to read the definition?
Of course. Definition. The branch of medicine which deals with the incidence, distribution, and possible control of diseases and other factors relating to health.
Okay, awesome. So I know that's like a really tough definition to understand, but how would you summarize that if you had to?
I would just say it's the study of how disease spreads, how people get it.
Yeah, exactly. Like this little picture I have on the screen kind of shows a little community, and epidemiologists are the doctors that monitor diseases and try to protect us from transmitting them and spreading them. And just like with the coronavirus right now, it's these types of people that are monitoring it and trying to help us as communities and as a nation to prevent it from further spreading. So there's something else called the epidemiological triangle, and it consists of three things. So that's a host, an agent, and the environment. So those are the three things you need to spread a bacteria or a virus or something like that. So with the flu, the host can be us as people. When we cough and sneeze, those little droplets can be spread to one another, and it's contagious, so you can get the flu from someone else. And the agent is the actual thing that's making you sick, what's hurting you. So that would be the flu virus itself. And then the environment plays a big factor as well. So for the flu or a lot of diseases or viruses, if you're in a big crowded space like the mall, or if you live in an apartment complex where there's lots and lots of people, it can spread more easily. Does anyone have any questions on this part or any comments? I know we do have a few people here that have some medical background, so if you want to share anything, just let us know. Okay.
I want to share something.
Okay.
I want to share that's exactly kind of what's happening with COVID right now and that's why we're trying to prevent the spread, from spreading throughout our communities. So we want to make sure that everybody, follows the guidelines that are put forth so that we don't spread it to everyone around us and get very sick. So.
Exactly. Thank you. Alrighty, Kelsey, would you mind reading these 5 bullet points? It says, why should you get vaccinated against the flu?
Yeah. So only 45.3% of American adults received a flu vaccine during 2019. The influenza virus is a potentially dangerous disease that can lead to hospitalization and even death. Millions of people get the flu each year, hundreds of thousands are hospitalized, and tens of thousands die from it each year. An annual flu vaccine is the best way to protect yourself from getting the flu. The flu vaccine can also lower the chances of hospitalization, time off work, doctor's visits, and risk of flu-related deaths in children.
Awesome. What stood out to you the most there? Anything, maybe one of the points you liked the most?
Well, I guess what stood out to me is that hundreds of thousands are hospitalized, because most people I know that get the flu just are like home for a week and then they get better.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you look at all the factors, you're not just feeling sick, but you may have to stay home from work. You might have to go to the doctors more often or pay more of your money to get better. And some people have stronger immune systems, so you might get the flu and you might overcome it, but you might be the means that it spreads to someone like the elderly that don't have as strong as an immune system, and that they won't be able to fight it off as good. So not only are we protecting ourselves, but also others when we get vaccinated. And if you see, like, only 45.3% of American adults were vaccinated. And that's still, I mean, a lot of people, because there's millions of Americans, but just think of how many incidences we could prevent if more and more people were vaccinated. Okay, so who should get the flu? Yearly vaccinations for 6 months or older are recommended. So even infants as early as 6 months old can get the flu vaccine, and even up to your elderly senior citizens, they should get those as well. And it's definitely beneficial towards people who have compromised immune systems who can't fight off the flu as well. So they definitely are recommended to get those. And just this little chart, like we talked about, like, there's millions of illnesses. People get the flu every year, and it leads to tens of thousands of deaths. Okay, Ben, would you mind reading these few points really quick for us? To why you should get vaccinated?
Sure. Yeah. The CDC recommends getting vaccinated before flu viruses begin spreading in communities. The best time is to be vaccinated before the end of October. Make plans to get vaccinated early in the fall of each year. However, getting vaccinated even later in the flu season, such as in January or even later, can still be very beneficial.
Awesome. So yeah, they definitely recommend getting it in the early fall time of the year, because it starts to come, it's more prevalent during the winter season. And if you can get vaccinated before then, it can really prevent it. But even if you didn't get it in the fall, you can get it in the early of the new year, and it will still be beneficial. And here's some symptoms that you might get if you have the flu that you can watch out for. Devin, do you want to read those off?
Sure. So symptoms and signs. So there's a sore throat, dry cough, rhinitis, fever, chills, and a headache.
Awesome. So, I mean, those are pretty general, but you might see these with a lot of other illnesses, but it just kind of, when you feel really sick and you see a lot of these symptoms, it should raise some red flags. And if you think you might have the flu, you'll go in, they can swab like the back of your throat or up inside your nose, and then they'll culture it to see if it is the flu. And to treat it, most of the time, their immune systems are good and it can overcome the flu. You can fight it off. And just kind of resting and eating a nutritious diet, staying hydrated can help. But if you need an extra help, sometimes your doctor can give you an antiviral medication because it is a virus. So we're going to use an antiviral medication to fight it off. And a really common one's called Tamiflu. So has the word flu in it so you can remember it. And then let's go ahead. There's just 3 questions here to test your knowledge. Let's go ahead and have Kathleen, can you read the first question? And then you can answer it if you remember it. Oh, we can't hear you still. You got to unmute yourself, sorry.
Okay, unmute myself. Okay, what 3 parts make up the epidemiological triangle? So the environment is one, and the host,
Uh-huh.
and what was the second one? Host, something, and environment. Agent.
Nice. Good job, teamwork. So it's the agent, host, and environment. Without one of those, it's not really that possible to have the spread of these viruses. And then, okay, Ben, do you want to read this question? And then you can answer it if you want to, or I can go on to the answer slide if you need some help.
Okay. What signs and symptoms will you have if you have the flu? There was sore throat, I think
Mhm.
fever, chills,
Yeah,
and headache. I think that's all I remember.
good job. Yeah, so sore throat, dry cough, rhinitis is kind of just
Mhm.
like stuffy nose. You can
Yeah,
also
just
have
that
a
one.
runny nose, either one of those, but fever, chills, and headache. And then if you're ever unsure, you gotta go to the
Okay.
doctor right away just to be on the safe side. Um, and
Yeah.
then let's see. Thanks, Ben. Good job. And then Kelsey, do you want to read this last one?
What are 2 good ways to prevent transmitting the flu?
Perfect. So do you want to answer your best guess, and then Devin can answer a different answer after you?
I don't remember what it said, but like staying home if you're sick or have symptoms. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I worded this bad. Like I guess I was trying to ask like what's the best way to prevent getting the flu and also spreading it after you get it. And that was a good answer. Did you have any thoughts, Devin?
Get your vaccine.
Get a vaccine. So
Wash your hands.
yes, so vaccination actually by the CDC said it was the best way to prevent it. Usually hand washing is the number one answer for preventing the spread of disease, but in this case, vaccination is the best. But just a good thing to know, like Kathleen was saying, to always wash your hands with soap and water often throughout the day, because that's not just preventing the flu spreading, but all the rest of those viruses and bacteria. But anyways, that was everything. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I got some questions.
Sure.
Um, so what's like the major reason why people don't want to get their flu shot? Or why don't they?
I mean, I think it's a lot of personal preference. There, everyone has their reasons, but there was kind of a study back then where a doctor falsified his research about vaccinations and autism. And he kind of
Mhm.
made it seem that if you get a vaccination, your kid's going to have autism or something like that. And they later came back and found that his study was false. But the kind of belief still lingers on that a lot of people have these ideas that vaccinations can lead to these crazy things. There's always like a minimal chance that something can happen when you have a vaccination. For example, some vaccines are the actual live virus they're putting in you, but it's so small that your body can normally always handle it. So your doctor will like assess you before you get a vaccination to make sure you are a good candidate for one. But the chance it outweighs the benefits. The vaccination can prevent the flu, and the risks are so small otherwise. Any other
Okay.
questions, or did I answer it good enough?
Yeah, that was good. What about how come it's always around October when the new flu season start? How come it isn't in like June?
Well, from a little bit of my research, it sounds like the flu comes from like birds and other animals, and then it can kind of migrate towards humans. It kind of spreads to them, and then we spread it among ourselves. And it sometimes originates from like Asia and other countries across the world. And basically, for each virus or bacteria, there's a time or a temperature or an environment when it's more susceptible to infecting you. And it's kind of around the winter season when the flu is at its peak point where it can spread more easily. There's some theories that say like just the cold temperatures and like the less amount of sunlight kind of promotes the flu staying alive. And there's some other theories as well, that you might stay home more often in the winter season and not go out as much, so you're breathing the same air as those you live with, and just things like that. But that's why they recommend to get it before then, sometime in the fall. Any other questions?